So that's the first step. So the 5 steps are basically simply capture, clarify what you've captured, organize the results, if you can't finish them in the moment, into some sort of trusted system. That then step 4, you review and reflect on the contents of that system. So step 5, you engage your attention and your activities based upon a good conscious choice, given the gestalt of all of your commitments. That's it.
That's it. And that's all. I mean, it's
We're
simple,
done.
right?
Yeah.
We could be done. We could be done right now, man. But it's crazy. Like you can obviously here's the 5 steps to be productive. But that's it. What's the one place where you see most people failing or kind of failing to embrace or adopt?
Each one of those steps. Most people don't write down everything. Most people listening or watching this have probably some sort of a to-do list, whether that's on a Post-it or in some sort of a list on a planner or on, on your iPhone somewhere. And it's incomplete. It's not everything you've got your attention on. It's just the stuff that you think is important. But what about all that other stuff? And so the first thing is that people don't capture everything. And by the way, if you don't give appropriate attention to anything that has your attention, it'll take more of your attention than it deserves. You'll be waking up at 3 o'clock.
That was deep. Say that one more time.
If you don't give appropriate attention to what has your attention, it will take more of your attention than it deserves. Okay. So something that seems a little counterintuitive to people when they run across my methodology is, you mean I need to be as rigorous about capturing cat food as capturing rewrite strategic plan? I go, you better. Otherwise, cat food is going to take up real estate that's not available for thinking about your strategic plan.
Okay. Got it.
Got it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I do. Let me write it down. Hold on.
No, you got the book. It's in the book. But there's kind of a, Gabe, I don't want to sound too, look, at 75, I'm a little kind of cranky and direct these days. But come on, folks, write this stuff down. Get it out of your head. Get it somewhere out there. Doesn't mean that's important. It means if it's not important, then it should have a not important place. But you can't do that. If it's just in your head, that part of your psyche doesn't seem to make much difference between cat food and strategic plan. And you can be waked up at 3 o'clock in the morning by either one. Right. Okay. So your brain is actually stupid. If your brain actually had a brain, it would only remind you of stuff when you could do something about it. Right. Yes. Where do most of you get reminded that you need batteries? Try this at the dead ones.
Yeah.
That's not smart. You pick up the thing. It's like, damn, and so you're only reminded that you need the battery when you try to turn the thing on.
It's reactive. You're being reactive. So managing your energy, right, versus managing your time. I mean, that what you tell me just now, a lot of managing your energy matters more than ever now. And
well, I would say, I would agree with that too, but I would use a different word. What you need to do is manage space. How much time does it take to have a good idea? 0. How much time does it take to be loving and present with your kids? 0. How much time does it take to be creative or strategic? 0. Those require no time. They do require something, space. If you're wrapped around a meeting that didn't go well this morning and you're still wrapped around what you should have done, and oh my God, it's hard to watch your girl play soccer and have your brain present so you can give her the attention she deserves. Right?
Yeah.
So it's space you need, not energy.
Space.
Because you can have really good ideas and have really low energy. Right. So and all this will affect your energy, believe me. If you start to get your head clear, you're going to find your energy go up no matter what.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be totally energetic in order to be fun or strategic or creative or just be present. See, all this, let me give you a big secret. And so you guys are probably smart enough, and this is a secret. I don't tell a lot of people this, so
let's
pay
hear
attention. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Getting things done is not so much about getting things done as it is about becoming totally present with whatever you're doing.
Okay.
Because that's the most productive place to hit a golf ball from, to fire somebody from, to write a business plan from, to cook spaghetti from, is when nothing's on your mind except that. Right? So what do you need to do? What do you need to do to get clear? Well, you can drink and meditate. I do both. Either one of those kind of helps a little bit. But, frankly, what you need to do is get the stuff out of your head that's banging around in there, that's taking up that cognitive space, and then clarify what you're going to do about it, if anything, park the results in some sort of trusted list or system that you trust you'll see at the right time or the place, or that somebody will. And then make sure you're looking at the system appropriately, so that you're then you get back to cooking spaghetti, and that's all that's on your mind. So, a lot of a lot of your folks are working virtually now, right?
Oh yeah, like I think most of a
Yeah.
big chunk. I mean,
Well,
that's why yeah, exactly.
yeah. Well, what most of you don't have now is your commute time to think.
Oh yeah.
Now, especially if you got kids, you're 24/7. You're on. They're
Oh
banging
yeah,
on your
for
door.
sure.
They're keeping you. They're yada yada yada. So being able to create the space to be able to do your work now just takes on another level of game with people that suddenly have to work from home if they're not used to working from home, right?
Yeah. Now,
So
should you? Is it okay then to put things digitally? Do you want them externally on sticky notes? Like, doesn't matter? Does
doesn't matter. Write them on your
and
butt. Put them in Excel spreadsheets. It doesn't matter. All you need are lists. But a very important thing that most people don't get is a big difference between capture and organize. See,
okay?
capture says you're in a meeting. Any of you been ever been in meetings and taking notes? That's capturing. This might be relevant. I'm not
Uh-huh.
sure yet, but I'm just taking notes, right? Then what
Okay.
do you do when you go back to your wherever you go back to after the meeting, right? Then what do? You take a look at those notes and go, I don't need that, or yeah, I'm going to store that as reference, or that's just trash. Oh yeah, I need to. That reminds me, I need to X, Y, and Z. So then you need to go through. That's the clarify step of the things you've captured. And then once you clarify, you say, okay, that's a website I need to surf. That's a conversation topic I need to go over with my boss. That's a uh, thing I need to talk to my life partner about. And that's where you're then making action decisions about things, or you're deciding what these things are. And then if you come up with actions you need to be reminded about, that's a conversation topic I need to have with my boss, or that's an errand I need to run, or that's a website I need to surf. Then you better park some reminder of those somewhere, that when you're ready to surf the web, you got all those surf the web things you've come up with. When you're ready to talk to your life partner, you got all those, business and life stuff to talk to your life partner about, in
Mhm.
front of you. And those things are there. And again, it's kind of a duh. This is not like a foreign
Yeah.
language or some new technology. Come on, everybody knows how to do these behaviors. Just very few
Mhm.
people do them in terms of as a methodological approach.
Okay.
So what happens when you actually do that? So you ask, what started this is, where do people fall off? Well, first of all, they don't capture everything. So they don't trust it in their head. They don't trust it in their list, really. So that's the first thing, fall off. And even if they got everything out of their head, people avoid making next action decisions about stuff that's on their list. I challenge anybody listening or watching this right now, unless you're really a full GTD implementer, to look at your to-do list, and you're going to see very few next actions. You're going to
Oh,
see things
sure.
like mom, or bank, or tooth, or who knows. And that's great. You captured some stuff. Why did you write mom down? Yeah, it's good historical data. You probably had one. Why'd you write it down? Oh, her birthday's coming. Ah, mom's birthday's coming. What are you going to do about mom's birthday? I don't know. So most people look at all their lists and create as much stress as those lists relieve, because all they're seeing are things they still haven't decided what they're going to do about them. And there's thinking they haven't finished yet. If you have not decided the very next action about anything that has your attention that you need to move on at all, you haven't finished your thinking, and it'll spin. Don't shoot the messenger, guys. That's the truth. Your brain will spin, and you'll keep thinking about it. What should I do? What should I do? How do I do it? What do I do? Even in cat food, if you haven't figured out what to do about how are we going to get cat food, how about write it on a post-it on the fridge, so whoever's going to the store, will pick it up. Cat food off my mind. Doesn't mean you go wake up at 3 o'clock and you go buy cat food. It just means you've now appropriately engaged with it. But that's why capturing stuff, again, is different than organizing. So I capture all kinds of stuff and probably throw away 80% of the stuff I write down. Because when I write it down, I think that might be important. I might do something about it, but I'm not in a context to be making strategic decisions about it right then. But it's a possibility. It's a potentially meaningful thing. So what you're capturing is potentially meaningful stuff. You don't want to wait till it's important to write it down. You write it down if it's on your mind, because what you want is a
Get it
clear-headed
off.
inlet.
Okay.
Yeah. So the second place people fall off is they avoid making action decisions, and outcome decisions. What are you gonna do about mom's birthday? Oh, yeah, let's celebrate mom's birthday in a nice way. Fabulous. Now you got something to add to a project list. Give mom a nice birthday party or whatever it is. And you've got a next step. I should call my sister, see what she thinks. Great. Now you've got an outcome and an action, which, by the way, are the zeros and ones of productivity. What are we trying to produce here? Come on, you guys, in the kind of work that you do, I would challenge all of you. Are all your meetings starting with what are we trying to accomplish by what time right now?
That's a good challenge.
And when you end a discussion in that meeting, are you going, so what did we just decide, and what's the next action if there is one, and who's got it? I've seen whole cultures change with just those two questions embedded in the lexicon of the culture. But most cultures don't do it. They have crappy meetings that lead to crappy emails, that lead to crappy meetings, that lead to crappy emails. And that's one of the greatest frustrations, especially for young companies and startups.
Yeah.
Because they haven't matured themselves to getting really rigorous about their thinking and their conversations and their decisions. And then who's managing what about that? You're not born doing that. It's actually something you kind of need to learn and need to build into your best practices. But it's not hard.
No, I mean, that definitely doesn't sound hard. It's just the executing part. Now, here's a question that an anonymous attendee asks: what if we have too many places to capture things? Is there too much love of having, like, let's say you have an online task management, you have a sticky note, let's say you have a pen and paper in your pocket. Is that such thing to have too many places to capture, or do you recommend?
Well, you need as many as you need, but as few as you can get by with.
Okay.
I hate all those other IM stuff that's shown up out there. It's like, what'd they do? Give you another in basket you're gonna have to look at?
Yeah.
They thought, I don't know, give me what, there are two or three of them that are whatever. They thought those were going to get rid of emails. Grow up. They're not going to get rid of email. Is your best medium to do all of that because it's one source that you get that stuff in. I've got a couple of friends, they're big GTDers here in Amsterdam, that built a nice app for your iPhone or anything. It's called Brain Toss. The reason it's a nice app is because when you record or capture or picture or write or whatever into Brain Toss, it automatically goes to whatever email you want, as opposed to the black hole of your iPhone, right? Okay. So it gets into the system so that you're capturing it into fewer places, and you're narrowing the funnel as best you can. But come on, the mail showing up in your physical mailbox is still an in basket. You can't get rid of that. I know you'd all like to get rid of paper, but good luck. It's still happening. Right?
Oh yeah, I still love the pen and paper. Another question here: do you recommend time blocking? Is time blocking
if you need it to get it off your mind?
Okay.
I don't I only time block if I'm looking at something. Time blocking is pretty good especially if other people are grabbing your time, and you got a deadline coming up. You got this thing that has to be delivered by next Friday or the week after, and you're going to need 2 or 3 good hours of uninterrupted time to be able to work on it. In that case, it's probably worthwhile to get that off your mind and say, next Wednesday, I got a good free afternoon. Let me block out, 1 to 4 in the afternoon to work on that thing. That works as long as you keep your agreement with yourself. But that is so easy to unhook that. So, it's very, very cautious. It's a cautionary tale to try to schedule yourself unless you really are willing to keep your own agreements with yourself about those kinds of things. And I would do that as little as you can get by with. So I plan as little as I can get by with, because the world changes every day and every hour. And so I like to keep myself as flexible and open as possible. If I didn't want to do it, it wouldn't be on my list, right? So all the options of me to do are available all the time. So then when I have some time, I go, okay, let me look at the gestalt, or let me look at the whole inventory and make some good decision right now, given the energy I have. It's not just how much time, but how much energy I have. If you've been in 6 Zoom calls all day and your brain is scrambled eggs, you couldn't have a creative thought if it kissed you in the face. Don't block 2 hours after that to try to write, some blog.
Yeah.
You're toast. So okay. So that's my answer about time blocking. Okay. Depends on whether you need it.
No, that's fair. Okay. Let's see another question here. So Jeff asks, I find that with GTD, getting things done, you can get OCD with the system versus actually getting things done. How do you find the balance?
Get older.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's productivity porn. Come on, let me go find. I think the new thing is going to help me because I never made the new old thing really work really well. So maybe the new thing is going to get me to do it, and that's because the technology is way ahead of people's thought process.
Hmm.
And once you get the thought process, it doesn't really matter what your tool is. So yeah, it's very easy. See, too controlled is out of control. It's very easy to then get OCD about the tool. It's not the tool. The tools are important once you get the thought process because it's important that you keep track in a trusted way with something that's easy to access and easy to input. Absolutely.
Okay.
So I love really good tools and good tech tools in that way. But if you think the tool is going to fix your thinking, good luck. It won't, because no tool is going to decide what to do about mom's birthday.
Okay. No,
The
that
tools, by the way, just FYI, where the world is going ultimately, I don't know how soon it's going to get there, but all the improvements are really in decision support.
mhm.
See, if mom's birthday is coming up, if you've captured every birthday you've given mom and what she loved and what she did and her favorite colors and what are the presents she's had before, how old is she now, what would be a cool thing to do, what have other people done about mom's birthday, all that's now, it's the all the opportunities of data that can help make a decision, but it's not going to make the decision for you about mom's birthday.
No,
So
totally.
you still have to apply a thought process, no matter how good the digital version is, or how good the tech is, or how good the data is that you've got. But it's always nice to keep improving that. Come on, pen and paper was a huge improvement. So was the telephone.
Yeah.
All these things were way cool things, and but it is pretty easy if you sort of get into GTD, especially because GTD got very popular with the IT crowd, especially when it came out in paper back in 2003, and that's when the blog world kind of started to spread the word out there, and people like Guy Kawasaki and
Yeah. No,
and
God.
Robert Scoble and those folks, they were big GTD fans, and so they started to publicize it back then, and so that's when GTD. That was just our shorthand, but it was this brand that kind of ran out from under us and sort of spread around the world. So we're trying to catch up with the brand. What happened out there? Anyway, I guess the point of that was, yeah. So a lot of tech folks love GTD because what it did was it validated the tools they already had and gave them a really good way to use either Excel or Asana or any of the list managers out there. At last count, Gabe, there were over 300 software apps that have been built around the GTD model. Not mine,
Yeah.
just people out there call, hey, all I need are lists. So let me make a list manager. And there's tons of them out there. But a number of high-tech people are going back to paper simply because the more clicks you have, the more you're going to lose, your focus.
Oh, totally. No, we've seen that in our, I mean, that reminds me of a quote. What is it? It goes something like a fool with a tool is still a fool, right? Like it doesn't matter, right? If you don't have
Sure.
those basic structures and principles. So somebody in the chat here said that maybe we should put some of the GTD templates in our product Lucidchart or Lucispark, and I'm like, oh, maybe might be a good idea, obviously, to put them in there. So a lot of our users and customers visualize a lot of processes, ideas, and methodologies and Lucidchart, and now with their new Lucispark. But okay, let's see. Any other questions? Let's see. I know I want to be respectful of your time, David. Let's do a few more minutes of questions. Put them in the chat.
I'm fine, Gabe. So we got plenty of time.
Okay, great. Thank you
On
for
my
being
side.
generous of your time, because I know it's end of the day there for you in Amsterdam. So I have a few more questions here. Let me see. Okay. I think maybe you've answered this one. How should we store reminders / processes in a digital manner that is easy to come back to? Ariel. So how should we store reminders / processes in a digital manner that is easy to come back to? I mean, that's kind
Well,
of
you have to have something that you habitually come back to,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just ran into a problem that there's a company I'm dealing with. It's actually a client that for somehow the email they're sending to my standard email is not going through. So they're having to use Gmail. I have a Gmail account, but I hardly ever use it at all. So they're using Gmail for that. And I have to remind myself now I have to go check Gmail. Damn, I never had to do that ever before. So
Okay.
I'm having to build and slap myself around. Come on, David, you know, how often, okay, and so I'm just now needing to build in the habit to make sure I go back and look at where that is. For the most part, once you implement GTD, your list should be organized usually by how you want to see them when you need to see them. For instance, I have an errands list. I don't need to see that unless I can go out for errands. No need to see that when I look at other things because I can't do it right now. I
Mhm.
have a list that says stuff to talk to Catherine about, my wife. I don't need to see that unless it's time for Catherine and I to chat about something, right? So once you distribute your reminders in appropriate places, then you just, when I go out for errands, I don't have to work at trying to remember where's my errands list. I know exactly where it is. But because I need it, then I go look to where that is, right? Being organized simply means you put stuff uh, in a place that matches what it means to you. So if you're in your kitchen, if spices are not where spices go, you're disorganized, not because I said so, but by definition, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got reminders of phone calls you need to make, or emails you need to send, or documents you need to draft, or websites you need to surf, where do you need to put those reminders so that when it's time to go surf the web or you have discretionary time and think, okay, what are all the things I need to do?
Mhm.
And it's not just one list. You might be, I've got an at-home list. I have online, actions I need to do. I have errands I need to run. I have stuff to talk to Catherine about. I could do any and all of that right now. So just being able to see all of that in some way, but I'm not looking at those every hour, every day. Heavens, I don't have the time. Once a week, the
Once a
weekly
week.
review. The weekly review is the one sort of saving grace of all of this. Once a week, you need to catch up all of this stuff. If you start to implement it, any of you folks out there who are GTDers to some degree already know the weekly review is going to be your biggest challenge. It's very easy to fall off this wagon as soon as your lists get not current, and as soon as you start to trust your head again, as opposed to your system to give you the options. Your system doesn't tell you what to do. It gives you all the options. Then your intuition decides what to do given all those options. But you want to give your brain the rest of not having to remember or remind anything, so it frees your mind up to then be free to make intuitive decisions about your options. If you have 8 phone calls to make, just try to remember all those.
Yeah.
No, you might remember the latest and loudest one, but what about all those 8? But if you looked at that list of 8, some part of your brain goes, that one, and you'll see which one to do. So once you have a map of your options, then your brain and the computer won't make that decision for you. That's what your brain has to do, is take a look at all of that and make some decisions. That's the reflect, step 4. Once
Yep.
you've organized these things into the appropriate list, then you need to make sure you're looking at your errands list when you go out for errands. You make sure you look at all the projects you've got. And by the way, most of you listening or watching this have between 30 and 100 projects. Given my broad definition that a project is any outcome you're committed to complete that's going to take more than one action step to complete it. Get tires on your car, handle what you're going to do with your kids for their next, season. How do I manage, how do I upgrade my home office now that I'm spending all my time here? Yada, yada. Those are
Yep.
all projects. My tooth hurts. Oh, damn, what do I do about that? That's a project. Doesn't mean that you fix it. It means you've got a project called look into what to do about this. So, if you really get rigorous about defining what are all the outcomes that you have attention on completing or clarifying or resolving, most people have 50, 60, 70 of those. So if
Wow.
you don't have that list in front of you and keep it current, you're always going to be driven by latest and loudest to some degree. And you're
Yeah.
always going to feel this vague sense. So I used to say the big issue was overwhelm. It's not. If you got overwhelmed right now, Gabe, if your building caught on fire, believe me, that's overwhelming, and you would fix it. Right?
For
The
sure.
biggest issue is when you don't have that kind of crisis, and then all the demons at the gate come rushing through about all the things you could do instead of talking to me. What are all the things you could do when you get off this podcast or get off this webinar? Oh my
Yep.
God! And you're gonna have the stress of opportunity. And if you don't have all that clarified and organized, and so you can see the game that you've defined so far, then
Mhm.
you're living in ambient anxiety, which is the biggest issue. And the ambient anxiety, this vague gnawing sense that there's something I probably ought, would, could, should, oh, let me go play solitaire,
Huh.
you know? And that
Yep.
ambient anxiety is where the real pain is. And that's where the pressure is coming from. And that's where the stress is coming from. So the biggest barrier to entry for all of this, people implementing what I've been talking about, is your addiction to ambient anxiety or your addiction to that stress. You're willing to tolerate it. I'm not. That's why I don't go keep anything in my head. That's why I do this stuff. I'm a fellow student, guys. I still have to do all this. I still get stuff banging around my head called, David, come on, you take this stuff, write it down. What's the next action? I still have to go do all these things as well to keep my head clear.
And that's what I love about you, man. That's what you're still a practitioner. You didn't come up with the concept 20, 30 years ago, but you're still a practitioner of what you taught. You're walking the walk, and that's very, I look up to that. I think that's very outstanding to do that and continue living those principles. Another question here is, how do we get to clarity in our decision making? Writing everything down isn't enough for me. Definitely say.
First of all, if you know where you're going, then these methodologies allow you to get there with less effort, and much more efficiently. If you're not sure where you're going, these, implementing this methodology will give you clearer space to let show up what may be where you need to be going. So clear space is just a nice end result in and of itself. So I go, so get everything off your mind, decide what it is. See, people ask me, how do I set priorities? I say, about what? Mm-hmm. When you're going to sleep, you're not doing a whole lot of stuff. You're just sleeping. That's job one. So I have two priorities, what I'm doing and everything else.
Right? Okay. Being present.
Yeah. So and when I stop doing what I'm doing, and then I said, okay, what's the next thing I'll be doing? Because you can only do one thing at a time, at least consciously. You can walk and chew gum, but that's multitasking. But you can only focus your conscious attention on one thing at a time. You can switch rapidly. There's that. But if I focus on that and can't finish whatever that is, I'm writing a note, throwing that in my in tray, so I can go into that thing, knowing there's a placeholder for that other thing. So my brain is not still spinning around that thing I haven't finished yet. It's clear. And so once you get, I'm not going to talk to anybody really about their priorities unless their head's empty. They've made next action decisions and outcome decisions about everything that has their attention, and they've got some organized way to see the map of what all that is. And then I say, and I've never had anybody do that and not be really clear about what their priorities were. I didn't tell them. They just got clear. They just got their distraction. They got the noise out of their head. And once that noise is out of your head, it's going to be easier. It's still not the easiest thing in the world if you have hard decisions you're going to need to make. Should I get divorced or not? Should I buy the company or not? Should I quit this and go join that other thing somebody asked me to do? Come on, if everything were easy, you'd never grow or expand or learn anything. So this methodology doesn't make life easy. It just puts you in the driver's seat about it as opposed to playing victim to it.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And the more, every time, doing my research on you and listening to podcasts, reading blogs, and now during this conversation, so much of this it's just but it's but it's like, why do we still have a hard time as human beings? Like, it's but it's so crazy how crucial and essential. And I'm so embracing your methodology, obviously. But as the more I hear, it's more like, come on.
Well, I understand it's the but the reason the is there is because your brain is a seductive villain. Your mind will try to convince you because you think of it, that it's done, or that's all you need to do about it. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever changed your mind, who did that? So it's the thing that controls your thinking. See, you've heard of emotional intelligence. That's great, good stuff. But this is mental intelligence, right? Okay. Don't let your mind run you. And most people let their mind run them, as opposed to, okay, you have a mind. Where's your mind going right now? Where do you want to point it? And are you keeping it clear? But it'll convince you when you have an idea. Oh, I'll never forget that. That's such a clear, obvious thing. And then 2 minutes later, when you're thinking of the next obvious thing, you're sure you won't forget. You forgot the first thing.
Oh yeah.
Right. But it didn't go away. It's sublimated into the spin that'll wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Man, this is good stuff. This is good wisdom you're sharing with us here, David. Let's have 2 more questions. So, a fun question is, somebody's interested in that tower of books you have behind there. What are those books?
Well, it's a great podcast, topic conversation. Anyway, it's a trigger. I'm not going to read any of these. these are actually all of my books that have been translated in all the 30 languages. And we were going to throw them away when we moved to Amsterdam from Santa Barbara, but Catherine said, you know, come on, we ought to keep at least one copy of each. But
Okay.
so we did, you know, just for archive sakes or whatever.
Oh,
And it
for
turns
sure.
out there's a company in San Francisco called Design Within Reach that sells this incredible bookshelf. This is actually a bookshelf.
Oh
So
my goodness, dude, that is
so
trippy.
so yeah, and it has
Oh wow.
it's weighted appropriately. So it takes up the footprint of one book, but
Uh-huh.
you can see how many you can get, because we, you know, we live in an apartment, so we don't have all that room. So
I need to zoom in on that. I wish I could. Oh my goodness, that's I see what you did there. I like that. That's people in the chat here are
we'll
would
just
laugh
try
and say,
go
wow.
to Design Within Reach in San Francisco. They've got that. I think I last I looked a month or so ago, they still have it. So if you have a small footprint and books you want to, you know, books you want to take up that
Yeah.
space in small space, it works.
Okay, last question here is by Jeff. How will the millennial workforce adopt this? I'm assuming Jeff's asking this maybe because he's a millennial himself, or he sees millennials having a hard time adopting this. Because I know obviously millennials have adopted GTD, but how are millennials adopting this so far? I guess from your point of view.
The same as pretty much anybody. This is human stuff. So generations not your brain's not going to change for another 100,000 million years.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think that because you're in a different millennial generation that you don't have the same issues in terms of your head that we've been talking about. Those are
Mm-hmm.
true for anybody and everybody, right? I think what's true about the millennials is because it is true that generally they've got values of quality of life and quality of business life and quality of work life, probably more than their parents did. You know, that just needed to keep a job and, you know, salary man, you know, kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So and so it's going to give them, you know, this gives them more of a freedom to be able to then manage their own life in the way they might want to manage it, and to get back to the level of, you know, stress freeness that they like. So there, it certainly is an attraction for people who have those standards. But it's true for, you know, we're teaching 9 and 10-year-olds these days. They're just going, oh, yeah, I shouldn't leave things in my pack. I need to take them out at least the end of the week and see if mom needs to sign this thing. You know,
Right.
and you know, CEOs need to empty their briefcase and go, oh, this is my notes from the board meeting. What do I need to do about that? What do I need to have my assistant handle about this? Same principles, different content, but it's true for anybody. Anybody's got a busy life. They can't finish everything the minute they think of it. Then, you know, can find value and get more space and more clarity by implementing these techniques.
Well, this has been amazing, David. Thank you so much for answering some of these live questions. Thank you, everybody that has stayed on and watched live this whole time, or if you're watching on demand or afterwards. We are going to send the recording of this, and this is going to be available, you know, to anybody to watch for free, obviously. And David, I'm assuming the best way to get a hold of you is through your website, Getting Things Done, Twitter. You have over 1 million followers there, or on LinkedIn. Um, is there any best way? Any of those preference or?
Well, if by the way, we just published you know, a few months ago, the Getting Things Done workbook. The Getting Things Done book can be a bit daunting. So it's a good book to get. It's a manual. It will be evergreen. You know, the revised edition that, you know, we wrote a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be evergreen. It'll be useful, you know, forever, because it's like universal stuff. But if you wanted a simple, fast way to implement, the Getting Things Done workbook is available, and you know, that's a good way to start. It's sort of the 10. Yeah, you can get it at Amazon. It's the 10 steps that sort of get you into this process. Also, by the way, our partner that delivers, you know, public seminars and virtual now public seminars in the U.S., very close to your offices, Vital Smarts down in Provo. So they're our exclusive. They're our exclusive distributor. We've, you know, we love those folks, Andy and Emily and those guys. You know, we certified them, and so if you wanted a little deeper dive into all of this, check out Vital Smarts. You know,
Vital
and
Smarts. I have some friends that work there, or that used to work there. Yeah, I'm
down
aware
in Provo. Yeah, good folks. Anyway, so all those are ways to play. You'll see all of that if you're, since we've got a global audience here. If you guys go to gettingthingsdone.com and then check, if you click on training and coaching and then type in your country, you'll see the local licensee that we've certified to deliver training and coaching in your region and in your area. So we're now represented in 90 countries. So
that's amazing. Congrats.
Yeah. So you can get a hold of this, and these are great folks, and it's not mail order certification. This is rigorous stuff these guys have been through, that have our stamp of approval.
No, that's awesome. That's so I just put those links in the chat here widget. We'll also make those available in the description below in the on-demand webinar live stream. So thank you everybody again for tuning in, joining us. Thank you, David, so much. Appreciate it. Have a good night and rest of your week. Thanks,
Yay.
everybody.
Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.